Morning everybody, so welcome back to the video 140 on this dear old 1925 Studebaker. So the plan for this video, or today anyway, at least, I want to finish blocking these side valances off and hopefully do maybe the last little bit of body filler. And then start wet sanding either the fronts or the rears today at least, and then just go from there I guess over the next couple of days. Today's the 27th, so basically I'm going to work right up till Friday again. It's just Monday. So yeah, we'll just get on with it and do it. I'll just bring you back when I've done something and sort of show where I've got to. I'll give you a brief, quick overview now, just to show where I'm at the moment, but yeah. Right, so this is going to be sanded back. So re-skimmed this, whatever it was, Friday, or whatever. So we had Christmas Day and Boxing Day off. So yeah, and I've got to finish sanding this side. I think I've sanded most of this side. I'll go back and double check. I think there's a couple of low spots that I've got to fill, but I think it's mainly this side that's going to be sanded on here. And then we'll reapply, and obviously in between, because it is cool today. Yesterday was fairly warm, but it was windy, and Christmas Day was really, really nice. It was quite still most of the day, but it come up, the wind came up a little bit last thing at night, not a lot, but the sort of the breeze come up. But anyway, so yeah, I've got these to block out or sand out, and then obviously in between waiting on the body filler to go off again, and we'll reapply, and hopefully only in a few little areas where I know there's some low spots in here. There's one in here, and there's a couple little marks there. There's a red steel here. Now, there's a couple little pieces down here. Like I said, a lot of this is not seen, but really, so that's the front here. So it's seen from here up. So I've got to make sure this is all good. But as it gets to here, it's only, sort of seen. So you got that imaginary line down to that sort of 1.5 inches at the back edge to about here. This edge, so whatever's on this side of that line's seen, whatever's on that side of the line's not seen, if you know what I mean. So we're going to make sure that we're still fairly good a fair chunk of the way down in here, because we'll see a lot of this, but all this we won't. So just got to make sure it's reasonably good, and then just blend it out into here, so it still looks half decent when it's apart. Doesn't look like shit at the back edge, if you know what I mean. Nothing worse than you pull something off and it looks, this part of it looks really good and the rest of it's just garbage. I try not to do that. Some things like in here, there's only a certain amount you can do with it, you know what I mean. But as I said, like this is the same sort of thing, you see from there out, but you don't see that bit. So you just try and make it reasonable without making it look real shit. So yeah, I'll get on with this stuff, and then we'll bring you back and just let you know what we've done. No, I've got a wee bit of sanding to do on that front apron too, which I haven't done yet. We'll come back later on. Well, I was thinking for ages, what can I use to put some stickers on? Well, funnily enough, I remade that door. Because when I tried to pull the door skin off to remake the wood frame, I split all the skin. So it was like, light bulb, just dawned on me. So that's the original door skin off this car, and it's all split and broken here, and like obviously in other places as well. It's all broken off. Sorry, I screwed up in the wall. I put stickers on there. And it had the two perfect holes in it for where the side curtains clip on, where the little tit's got to go on, which I actually need to put on. I need to drill all those holes too. They're on the front door. All the rest of them are remade, and they're actually going to go around here too. So I have to do that at some point. So yeah, so that'll give me a chance to put some stickers up on there, because I haven't really got much room on here. But I've got some bigger Iron Horse ones, and I've got some stuff with Cletus ones. And as much as I'd love to be able to send people some, I haven't got any at the moment. Hopefully that'll be coming early next year. I'll get some stickers made. There's a local place where I get my business cards made. They will do stickers. So I might see if I can get some off them and then send them overseas. But you can also get them off my Teespring store. But I'm gonna actually go redo my Teespring and put the slightly newer version of the logo on there, because we've changed it from just the NZ Mopa to NZ Mopa Outlaw Kustoms, and combined my logo and Minnesota Outlaw Kustoms logo together to do that, since we're trying to do things together. So yeah, I'll put some stickers up on that at some point. And I just finished blocking that out and re-skimming. I actually had mixed up a bit much and I didn't really have anywhere else to put it. So I just spread it a little bit further along. But it was mainly, there was a couple of low spots and there was a few marks, just small marks. So I ended up sort of just re-skimming sort of the areas that were a bit bad, and there was a funny spot on the curve. I've sort of left the rest of it mainly alone, except for there was the odd little funny spot in it. So hopefully this one will be done next time I block it out. I'm hoping we'll get all that funny spot down there. I may have to reapply just a little piece in there, but I'll block this one out now. And the windmill that was in here that was being resurrected was just going to be an ornament. It beat itself to death. I can't really show you. I don't know if I can or not. So I'll see if I can zoom in. No, I can't. I want to have that one. Yeah, I don't know if you can see, but the tail swings around on it. Well, is meant to swing around it so you can pull it out of the wind if it's really, really strong. Well, they didn't realise it could do that. Well, they did, but they thought they had it locked off. But the tail came around in the real strong winds the other night, and then it's just basically cut all the blades off on the outside of the steel frame. Righty, so I just finished putting a little bit of glazing putty in this. Couple of spots in here. There's just a few funny little marks, and just basically just funny little marks, or some pinholes or whatever. And there was a bit of a funny mark in here still. But apart from that, we've got it. It'll just be a light rub back, and then we'll just smash some highboard on it. Next day or two. So I'll get this one knocked back again, see if that'll sand back. And it's not too green, being a bit cooler. Otherwise, I'll move on to wet sanding. So I'll come back to you shortly and let you know how I'm getting on, whether I'm doing wet sanding or still working on that. Righty, so I'm not sure where I last show you, but I've sanded both of these back, and I've put glazing on putty on both, and I've just sanded them both back again. I could probably hand sand back a little bit further, but I'm basically ready for high build on these things. So I'm just going to do a little bit more sanding on that piece, and I'm just going to check some of the edges like down in here, even though it's not seen because it's got the running board, above this. But I still want to just make sure that I feather the edges out a little bit. So I'll go along and check that sort of stuff on that bottom edge. I'll just have a quick wee look on the inside, just make sure there's no body full. I've opened and cleaned all these holes out too before, so I don't think I've got anything else left underneath, but I'll just check around to make sure I haven't got any other crap and stuff stuck on the underside, because I'll spray them on the inside first, give them a coat or so on the inside, and then do the other side. So I just want to knock all the crap off this if I can. Lots of here and a few other spots. I've just started knocking it off. Get that cleaned up. And I go around and clean all this stuff up. And there's a bit of crap on the inside where I haven't sanded that off. And get this ready for high build as well, because as much as I was going to wet sand these, I think if I can smash a few coats of high build on these then maybe at the end of the week I can start blocking these back after I've finished puddling around with these for a couple of days. Because it'll take me a couple of days to sort these out, probably, 1.5 to 2 days. And I've also got a lot of block sanding to do on that, so between those and like it's the front ones and the body, I've got plenty of block sanding, and that'll give these days a few days to cure up if I can get a couple of 3 or 4 coats on these, especially on the outsides where it's seen. Well, at least then we might even better get these really close for black paint as well, because these will come up a heap easier obviously than especially these two. I think I've just about got them right. A couple of wee spots where I've actually was opening these up where I actually run the thing across and dug a bit of a hole, but I've just got to put some glazing putty in there. And I think I did the same thing on this too, in one hole somewhere. Can't remember where, one of these holes. I run across the panel a little bit, where it gripped. Yeah, that one, it's just got a little mark in it. But I can fix that up. I'll just sand this off. I'll just mix up a little bit of glazing putty, fill that up, and then I'll finish sanding that off. Alrighty, so these are primed. So I obviously finished cleaning them up, knocked them back, whatever. This edge isn't terribly nice. I actually thought I had a bit more cleaned up than that, but you're not going to see it by the time I've blocked it back a couple of times and a couple loads of primer on it and whatever else. That should come up pretty good. This is only really the first initial coat of primer. We might have to do a couple, just to really get them to block out flat by the time we've sort of finished. But we've got the initial on there, at least we'll be able to see where we're going from once it's hardened up and we block them out. Same with that. There's 3 or 4 good coats on these now, so yeah, they'll take a good reasonably good hard block back, and we'll really better pull up and see where we need to address anything, or where we can just pull it out with a few more coats. I just hope we don't run out of primer, but it doesn't matter if I don't paint these things until later on. Same with that back Valance, I haven't primed that yet, but it would be nice to paint all the blue stuff all at the same time. But again, it doesn't really matter. Not as though it's metallic or anything like that. So, but we're getting there. Just trying to decide what I'm going to do now. Whether I start wet sanding, or whether I just call it a day. I might just call it a day, I think. And just come back and attack it again tomorrow. Just let these cure off. Alright, we'll catch you later on, and we'll see you tomorrow. Righty guys, it's morning. So I've had a bit of a shift around, put the side balances over here for the next few days anyway, until we get this stuff wet sanded back. So I'm going to start with this one and see where we get to. Obviously I might move that out of the road somewhere too shortly, but I'll get this blowing down, give it a wipe down or whatever, just to get any dust and grit off it, and then we'll start wet sanding. I think this is the most orangey peely one. I think the other one's smoother from memory. Not that it matters much, but hard to tell with all the dust here. I think this one's feels smoother. It's the first one I sprayed when I just didn't quite have the paint reduced enough. It sprayed on really funny. Doesn't matter. It's all good. It'll be nice and flat when we block it out anyway. So I'll get a bit of water and a few drops of dish soap in there, and Just wash it in soap and we'll get a fresh piece of 600 and we'll start wet sanding. Right, just give you a quick shot of what I've done so far. Obviously not very much, I've just sanded that front part, but just trying to show you what we're looking for and obviously where we need to keep going, if you know what I mean. So this is for obviously for people that haven't done a lot of wet sanding or anything like that over time, you know. So this is obviously, if you haven't seen this any previous videos, what I've done here is I've sprayed this with a semi-gloss black, which is what's on the chassis and the other suspension parts and stuff like that. It's the same paint as what's going on the body, but it's just low sheen. So I've used it to get a really good gauge on how these things look and to get them really cleaned up, and then we can get them really flat and blow high gloss over top, or primer if needed if we happen to go through anywhere. But you know, I think we'll probably get away with wet sanding these out with 600 and then blowing a coat, you know, 2 or 3 coats of high gloss over top once we've blocked it out. But what we're looking for, I don't know, hopefully you can see, you can still see there's like almost like speckly in there. We want to get rid of all that. We want to wet sand this so all this is all dead flat and nice and smooth and clean. Like there is clear spot patches, but yeah, I can see the texture over here because I didn't have the paint mixture right, but I wasn't panicked because we were spraying, you know, this is only like a what would you call it, like a base coat or whatever. So there's no clear over top of this when I painted either. But yeah, you know, you can see I've been sanding up to here, but this hasn't been sanded. So we're trying to get it back to, you know, where it's clear and there's no speckly from the texture of the paint, and it's all dead flat. So that's what we're trying to do with all this, and that hopefully that'll, because we can see the, you know, because we can see the original surface of the paint. If we can see anything in here, we know we haven't gone flat enough or deep enough through the layers of paint. I'm not worried if we go through the primer or anything like that, as long as I don't go back to bare steel. That's what I'm trying to avoid. If I happen to hit a little bit of bare steel on the edge or something like that, I'm not too panicked. I can borrow a little bit of primer over it and we can, you know, give it another quick wet sand, you know, and stop before we go through the steel again. But we're trying to get rid of every mark out of this panel now when we wet sand it out. And obviously because we can see, you know, we can see that speckly. Now if there's any speck or any other marks or imperfections in the paint, we just keep going through until we get rid of that. And if we don't get rid of it and we hit steel, we know that, you know, we maybe had a little flaw, you know, because we've got like a little mark here. You see that mark, you know, we'll just keep sanding that until it comes out. And there's a few little imperfections, but most of them are gone. No, but we're just trying to trace every last little mark and bits and pieces. And obviously the deeper we go through, in theory, the better and the flatter the panel should be, and the more even and perfect it should be, you know, even if it within the curves, if you know what I mean. So that's what we're trying to do here. So I'll carry on, and yeah, you can just follow along. I'll just put this all on high speed, so what will probably be a good hour or two of work will be only a couple of minutes of video. Righty, so I've wet sanded the crap out of this, and there's still a few little spots where it's a bit, you get that sort of sparkly look, which is obviously the texture of the paint underneath. So I've sanded a little bit more through here, but I've got to be careful. I don't want to go through the steel here. But most of it's pretty good. I might just sand down here a little bit further and get a wee bit more of this. Not that it really needs to be done, but it still needs to be sanded anyway. So obviously the top coat will stick to it. A bit more through here. It needs a little bit more all over, probably, just in spots. It needs a little bit more sanding here. You can see it a little bit through there. But most of it's pretty good. A little bit up here. Probably see that, yeah. So that'll show up in the paint. So I've got to keep sanding that down. And a little bit right up against this edge. But most of it's pretty good. This odd little spot, just got to go a little bit further, and that's how you'll end up with that. As long as your top coat when you spray it on is really good and nice and flat, you'll end up with an absolutely gorgeous job. And obviously depending on how good you are with the gun, and obviously how good you get the mix right and how good you get the gun set up, you almost won't have to do anything to it. You can almost go straight off the gun, which is always really is the best way to do a paint job. If you can go with the finish off the gun, the luster and the shine will last for years like that. Whereas if you've got to wet sand it and polish it and bring it back, it'll always dull out faster. Whereas that polished look and finish straight out of the gun will always be the best lasting finish, if you know what I mean. They've always said, if you can get that off the gun finish and it's really, really glass flat, leave it that way. Because once you wet sand it and polish it, it takes that finish is never as lasting. But it is what it is, you know. Sometimes you've got to wet sand. You know, I'm probably going to have to wet sand it. But, you know, I might fluke it and get it right. Just all depends, you know, just got to take your time, get your gun set right. But this, you know, if you can spray over a layer like this, and it's glass flat, well, it just makes all that difference. So I'll keep sanding with the way you hear. Wet more on this part of it, and then we'll switch to, obviously, the main part of the fender, and see if we can get that down to something like this, hopefully, because I know there is a few little imperfections in that, but hopefully we can get them, you know, 99% of it out. If there's the odd little imperfection, you know, and I can't get it out, well, it is what it is. But because I'm not going to spend any more time. If the rest of it comes off, if 99% of it comes up like this, you know, we'll just have to live with maybe the odd mark. But as long as it's not bad, or if it's in a spot that's not really super visible, you know, or something that just doesn't really stand out, well, it's not quite so bad. But you know, like something on this edge is going to be less seen than this edge, if you know what I mean. But it's still, you still want it all nice. So we'll get sanding. Oh well, back at it. Took about 4 hours to do that piece. But I've still got a couple of little blemishes to get out. But I'm going to go to the other side and get the majority of that out, and then see where we're at. And that's a bit dirty. Dirty fingerprints. We'll keep sanding. Alrighty, so we're getting there. Still a lot of sand to go on this yet. There's a lot of speckly stuff in there, getting it right in the right place. But it's flattening out pretty good. I don't see any major issues or major marks or anything like that at all. I don't think we're going to end up with any funny spots or anything. Everything looks like it's sanding out pretty even. Which is really good. Yeah, I don't see any major issues coming up at all, which is really nice to know. By the time we get everything blocked out and get rid of obviously any shiny paint or any the texture left. Once we're down to clean, flat, sanded, paint like this, or like in the middle here, we should be really good. I don't see anything that's really jumping out at me, or any like bigger marks or anything like that, that missed, which is really good. I think we're going to end up with a pretty freaking sweet paint job, to be honest. If there is anything, I haven't seen it yet, you know what I mean? So it's cool. It's really good. Wrapped. I thought there might have been the odd funny mark somewhere, but it doesn't look like we're going to run into anything, which is good. Means I managed to obviously get everything that I can really see, like there's a couple of little marks here that look like that might be slightly bigger. No, that's not much, that's not really orange peel, it's like a slightly low spot in the, there might have been a little mark in the primer, but it's not that big enough or deep enough that it's not going to stand out, like it's no worse than some of the other stuff that's around it. It might be slightly deeper. So like that's probably the only one that I would consider any significant sort of type of mark that, that stood out from anything else, if you know what I mean. There might be the other odd one that's a bit like that, but by the time we block it down and get everything else out, and get all this other orange peel, what's left of it out, I think we'll be good. So that's cool, we'll keep going. So that was about half an hour-ish or thereabouts before. I probably got about 4 and a bit hours in this thing, sanding. In between doing a couple of little bits and pieces. But yeah, like I've got a couple of little spots. A little bit here to sand. And there's another little, where is it? There. So you can get the light in the right place. Where is it? There. A little bit of sand there. And I see there was a little piece. A little bit there, sand. And I think there's still a little piece down here, that was probably the worst funniest spot, but it's going to sand out. Like I haven't broke through the primer yet. Like I've broken through the primer in other places. And I've got one wee spot of steel there, but you'd almost get away with it, you know what I mean? If you just puffed a little bit on there for start off, and then let that flash off, and then paint the rest of it, you'd get it. Like that's the only spot that I've broke the steel. Nowhere else yet. I don't think. No, I don't think I have. Which is good. That's the only spot I've touched through. Must be a slight high spot there where that's where the chassis comes up to it. You know what I mean? That's where the bolt and the chassis and everything sort of sits through there. So that's cool. We'll keep rubbing. Righty. So it's 4:20 and I'm still sanding this thing, but I think I'm at the end of it. I have to let it dry, obviously, to find out, but I'll just wet it down, wash it down, and I think it's a little bit, because I haven't managed to wash all the crap off it, but I think at this point we're looking really, really shit hot. And, as you can see, I've sanded through in a lot of places, but we're not down to steel anywhere. No, it's only that one little spot down here, which is the steel. Everything else is only just rubbed it through the primer. And as you can see, to me that looks pretty good. Like if you're looking at the reflection, not so much the colour. And you could obviously understand that the water is not sitting on there dead flat like a paint job would, because I've just poured it on there. But it gives you a pretty good indication of what this is going to look like when it's done. It's going to be juicy good. But anyway, I think I'm about done for the day. I'm going to give it a quick wipe down. Obviously have a bit more just to check, make sure there's no other, what do you want to call it, like the speckly marks in it, you know, from the texture of the orange peel. Make sure I've got rid of everything. If I haven't, I must be really, really close. I must be really close to being finished everything. You know, because I don't want to attack one area. I just want to keep sanding it over the whole thing. You know what I mean? To try and keep that nice, even flow. Because if you start digging in one area, that's when you end up with funny marks, or things don't keep even. And the big thing with wet sanding with like a final paint, even though this is not the final product, but it's basically the final product, if you know what I mean. It's just the satin version of what's going to be on it. And because it's 2-pack, it's really, really hard. It's at least a week to cure. So when you're wet sanding it back, like this with 600 and a wee bit of water and with a bit of water and soap, you know, just a few drops in a container or spray bottle, which I've been using, which is really handy. Just to spray where you go and spray your paper down. You know, keep it clean. You just end up with an absolute silky, flat, you know, job, you know, because it just smooths everything out, because it just slowly takes those layers down and it will run over, you know, those little low spots. It'll just keep running over them until it gets that paint down, whereas it won't dig in because it's so hard. It's not like primer, you know, where it's softer. You know, it's designed to be sanded off quickly to smooth the panel out. But when you get to this stage and you can blow a couple of coats of, if you've got the option to blow a couple of coats of colour basically in the product that you've got, if you've got enough paint, you know, blow a couple of coats on, wet sand it out, and then do your final coats, because you'll end up with just an absolute juicy job, because you will always pick up everything in this sort of style of thing. I've had to do a lot of this just by hand, or with that little soft blue block, because it's not flat enough, you know, and I haven't really got any what do you want to call it, paper that's suitable to go on a block, like with wet sanding. But this is pretty much the way you would do it. You know, you just use a nice little block wherever it is. You know, this style of thing, like, it stays nice and flat. It keeps the panel. You know, you got a good surface over it, and you can rub it. You know, rub the whole panel one direction, come back, rub it another direction, come back. You know, rub it at 45. You know, and then the other way. You know, and you just keep doing that. You just keep going over and over and over and over. You know, if you got the odd little funny spot, just do a double pass in that one area, but just keep the flow going all over it. You know, because this is nice and hard, and it takes you know, unless you're using really aggressive paper, I wouldn't go anything less than 600. 600 sort of cuts quick enough, but it's still slow, that you end up with that really, really nice job. You know, it'll just slowly go through those layers until you get rid of every little mark. That's the beauty of doing this. I haven't done this many times, to be honest. And it just, every time you do it, and then you can spray your top coats over top, you end up with such a silky, just smooth finish, you know, as long as your paint goes on nicely. But you end up just such a better result, because as much as you can get nice with primers and stuff like that, if you can wet sand a top coat and then respray, you know you're going to end up with a beautiful job, because you can see all the little marks so easy, and they just stay there until you get through them. And once you know you're through it, well, then you know you can stop. If you've got rid of every mark out of that panel and you're not through to steel, you know you're good. You know, you can blow your top coat on and away you go. You know, wipe it down, clean it down, blow it on, and it should be just beautiful. Which this should be. You know, when I wet it down, it just looks absolutely freaking sexy. you know, taking away from obviously the colour differences, but you're looking at the, you know, the shine in the mirror, you know, that mirror shine, that's what you're looking at for with wet. You know, as long as when it's dry, you've got rid of all those little orange peely marks where you know you're good. It makes such a huge difference if it's like this. Anyway, tomorrow will be the next one. It'll be 6 or 7 or 8 hours sanding again probably, because that's what it's just taken to get rid of all those last little marks and just keep sanding the whole thing. You can't concentrate on one area because you end up with stupid marks. You got to do that whole area. You know, if you know you've got a trouble spot, just go over that area a wee bit more often. But, you know, say if you had a mark here, you know, you'd sand that a couple of times and then do the rest of the panel. Come up here, you know, you can go backwards and forwards, you know, a couple of times and then do the whole panel. You know, just wipe over it that extra time, but keep doing the whole panel and then crisscross, do it the other way and then the other way. You don't stand there and just go like that because you'll end up with a big weird spot on it. But if you just keep going over and just keep pulling those layers down, you end up with just absolute juiciness. Right, I'm going to get out of here. Right, so I think this might be the end of this video. I'll make it the end of this video anyway, with the footage I've got from today. So thanks for all the new subscribers recently. I've keep getting new ones. Again, these old one flutters away again. It is what it is in this business by the sounds of it. But thanks to all those you guys that have come along. If you can stick around, there's going to be more than just this happening, you know, in the next few months. As I've said, I'm planning to build myself a shop truck. That will be obviously a bit slower than anything else I'm doing. Once we get this sort of painted and start piecing it back together, we'll have a 24 Dodge in here at some point, a 70s HQ Holden Ute, not sure exactly what year it is, possibly a split window van, combi van at some point, and the videos on a 65 Impala as well. So there's going to be a bit of variety of stuff. As much as my channel was NZ Mopar, you know, I'll do all sorts of things because I love all sorts of cars, but, you know, that's what I'm doing. You know, my shop truck, rat rod truck sort of thing will be a straight 6 Hemi pad, and I'll try and find hopefully like a Dodge or a Fargo body, or I will make something. I'm on a hunt. I'm just trying to find something that I can use, and obviously is within the money I can afford to spend at some point shortly. You know, once I get into some of these other jobs, then I'll be able to hunt. I'm sort of hunting and poking, if you know what I mean. So yeah, so I need to find a chassis and all that sort of stuff. I've only really I've got the motor lined up and the trans lined up, but you know, there's all these sorts of things coming up in the next few months, if you know what I mean. So yeah, this hopefully will be, I would say, heading towards completed in the next couple of months. Once we get the paint on it and start bolting it back together and getting the bits that I've made and done finished, and obviously going through some of the other stuff that I haven't touched yet, some of the smaller bits and pieces that aren't critical, obviously, to body work or the end result. You know, we will finish them, paint them, put them on, whatever, brackets and bits and pieces, headlights, all that sort of stuff. You know, that doesn't make a difference to the body work of bolting it together, sort of type thing. It's cosmetics and add-ons, and you know, but yeah, we'll get on with it. And yeah, thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers guys, thanks.